up to where?
Started, I think.
Yeah. We started Dalit already. No, we didn't. No, we're up to Dalit. So the Maim is explaining essentially the pasuk called the Doifek. The pasuk begins with, or the previous pasuk is Ani Shena, that I'm sleeping. My heart is awake. That's the pnimius of the heart of every yid that is awake, and I'm sleeping is nivolus. And notwithstanding that, which would then elicit the same response to Lamaila, notwithstanding that, because of Hashem's Ava Atzmis, Hashem's unconditional love for every Jew, he nonetheless knocks on the heart, knocks on the door of the heart, and says Pischuli. And what Hashem asks for, as he explained, is not even the Charora Shel Machat, the eye of the needle, but the point of the needle. Which means the thing of Bittul and Mesidus Nefesh, as we explained yesterday, even in one thing, and then Hashem's promise that I will open you up. And the opening is continued, is described by the Hemshech, the continuation of the Pasuk. Because the Pasuk goes on to say 4 descriptions. Achaisi, Rayosi, Yainosi, and Tamasi, which he's now going to explain. So it's explained in the Maimon of the Alter Rebbe. Bebichel means in a book. Hanochus means which was written down, recorded. And Harap is a Pinchas Reises, one of the Alter Rebbe's greatest chassidim. And there it's a little bit different than the way the Maimon is published in the Kotei Torah. So there he explains all the levels. Shachaisi, my sister, that's the first term of endearment. Meire al havede shmitzad. Just by the way, there's different terms of endearment here. Sister, Rayosi, friend. Yenosi, my dove. Tamasi, my horseman, one. And there are other descriptions also found in Tanakh, including my mother. Hashem referring to Yidden. We've encountered that. Just to point out that the same is also true down here. In a husband and wife relationship, it's not simply a man and a woman, husband and wife. There are many dimensions to it, including daughter, mother, friend, lover, and so on. There are all these dimensions, or should be, in a fully resonant and realized relationship. And actually even more than that too. More than that as well, because in fact, since we are all multi-dimensional, each person is an olam cut in a small world. There's even the male in the female, and the female in the male. As there is animal and inanimate, everything that exists in the world at large exists within the person, and all of that ought to be melded and fused in a marriage, which explains many things, or could explain many things, and could solve many problems, but that's not for now. So what's the Yinav? So he explains that like a brother and sister, sibling, that their connection, and how is that implied in the word even? Because ichor means to stitch or sew, which means to connect. So their connection, it's not something that requires to be justified or explained. Understanding, grasping, and bringing proof that one should love the other. It's not required. It's something natural. So that's the first step in Avodah, in the heart awakening. So also in the beginning of Avodah, which I'm trying to hear the beginning of this year later. Kasher Adain Ein Le'Me'umba, talking beginning of Avodah. A person doesn't have anything yet in terms of manifested experience. All he's built on, all in quotations, it's everything. But in terms of expression, it's not much. He has this commitment now, that's what he has, but no experience. This Mesidus Nefesh, this is the point of the needle, has placed him in Yiddish. There's two words in Hebrew. Hemid, placed. Veheve means and transported. So it means es hat ihm übergestellt. It's put him in another place. Min hakotze lakotze, from one extreme to the other. Before the Avodah, like we learned in the story yesterday, of this young fella, this young man, that did what he wanted. As opposed to the instructions of the Mashpia. We heard the story yesterday. As a result of that, he's completely off in the extreme of, his belittling himself. Which reminds me of a vort that was said many years ago in Asuka by Chaim's brother-in-law. I don't know why. Shalom Duchman, who was quoting it, Rabbi Yoel. This was the whole night, was the Fabding of this two-word story. Once there was a tailor, Amol given a Schneider, and he did what he wanted to do. And that's the end of the story. And that's the entire problem. He did what he wanted to do. A Schneider, in other words, he's not an ex-murderer or a terrible person. He's a sweet fellow. Tailors are sweet people. But he did what he wanted to do. That was the whole point. The whole problem. So now here we're talking where that's fundamentally changed. The person is the Nekuda of Mesidus Nefesh, which simply means not what I want to do, but what the Eibishter wants. As we said yesterday, he changed his whole life and everything, no. But in one area, but it's certainly in terms of where his desire is. It's a question of conviction. Enough is enough. But that's just a very deep core commitment. Again, there's no experience. The heart is not inflamed. There's no manifestation of this yet, other than commitment. So the Pasuk goes on to describe how the heart awakens. So again, the first avodah is the avodah of Achoisi. The avodah starts very low. The love isn't passionate; it's a natural love. And it shouldn't be passionate. Of siblings. So what does it mean? It means that the natural love that Yid has for the Eibishter begins to stir. This is the hidden love that Rabbi speaks about at length in Tanya. That every Jew naturally inherits. It's a pasuk in Yechezkel. I'm not sure why he brings it. I think the point is that this one Avram is the one Avram for every Yid, and this is bequeathed to every Yid. So that's one level. Furthermore, in explaining the level of Achoisi, my sister, to the first thing he's just said now is that what this stirs is the natural, it's not Avodah yet. The natural love that he has anyway, now that he's committed, it simply stirs it and allows it expression. But furthermore, this is b'medrash, Achoisi, or Achos, Ze Avram, but this is not the same pasuk. Oh, I need to look up that pasuk. There it talks about a brother. So who's the brother there? It also goes on Eden to see the context. Someone can look it up quickly. 48 Shir Hashirim Ches Ches and read the pasuk to us. No, all right, we'll see it later. What is it? So Achos means Avram. The Medrash says She'icha Kol Boi Olam Lefnei Hakadosh Baruch Hu. He connected or he bound all the citizens, inhabitants of the world with the Holy One, blessed be He. It's The thing of Achaisi is that he connected, he joined, he sewed, as we said before, the world with the Eibishter. Like the pasuk says, "Vayikra Shom Hashem Havai Kil Olam," and he built a mizbech and he called there the name of Hashem, God of the world. V'hainu sha'ichei shel olam im alikosi. That what's the nature of the connection between alikus and godliness is such that lo yirak b'ofen sh'olam u'metzias b'fnei atzmai. It's not merely that they remain independent fundamentally, but they're related, they're connected. The world is an independent entity. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who keil ha'olam. That's what the pasuk does not say. And Hashem is the God of the world, but rather He called keil olam. And we all remember this because the Rabbi said this in the first Maimon about Sidagani, towards the end. Remember? Huh? Yeah, read the pasuk to us.
Hahu is one with Katana. We have a little sister.
Achois Mitak is a sister. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we had this. Yeah, we learned this, and we had a Maimon on that. Okay, so Achois goes on Avraham. And the meaning says the Medrash, and again the Lashon that he connected. Remember we had this was a Pesach the Kemaimer, explaining the whole maturation from Pesach to Shavuos. You recall a little bit? Beautiful Medrash. We have a little sister, a Kapanim. So what I'm quoting here now again is from the Rebbe said this at the end of the Basi the Gani Maimer, the first Maimer of Kabbalas and Nesias, and mapping out the whole Avodah and Shlichus of the Deir HaShvi. The Avodah is, as Avraham did, because we're the seventh to Avraham, so we implement and fulfill and bring to realization that which Avraham began, and that is the Avodah not of Kel HaOlam, but Kel HaOlam. Which means, third line from the bottom, Shekol Metzias HaOlam, that the whole identity of the world, is the godliness which is in it, not two separate things. The reality of the world is Elikus, because it itself, in terms of the created property, has no intrinsic realities. He goes on to explain. How can we say, what does it mean? That the world itself, the Elikus in it is the true, its true identity. There's a world. So it's not an explanation. It's explained in Tanya Bekitzer briefly. But Maimor Chassidus Shalach Baruch and explained at length in Chassidus. What does it mean that the world itself is not a Metzias, and that its true identity is a likus? It's because Shalule Keichabel Benifal, without the ongoing active force bringing the creation into being. Pel means the active force. Nifal is the consequence. Without the cause, constantly invested in the consequence or the effect, Hainu, Ilu, meaning, Iloi mistalek me'ashamayim v'oretz, if for a moment they would depart from heaven and earth, Hadvar havayishim hava machaya isam, the ongoing word of Hashem. Mahava means which brings into existence from nothing. Machaya means animates. If this wouldn't be the K'mesha Kosev, like the pasuk says, B'dvar Hashemayim, B'dvar havayishamayim nasbut, by the word of Hashem heaven is made. Baruch Pivim, by the spirit of his mouth, Kol Tzavam, all of their hosts. So if this would depart for a moment, this ongoing creative force of Hashem, the Dvar Hashem, Ha'ismis Batel, es Mitzias Hashemayim Va'oretz, the entire existence of heaven and earth would disappear. Va'yonaisim Ayin Ve'efes, and it would be naught and nothingness, as things were, as it were, prior to creation, Hashem and nothing else. So, since the whole very existence of creation is dependent absolutely on God's constant creation, it doesn't have its own independent truth, its own independent reality. It's merely a consequence. So therefore, understand the creation must be ongoing. Like we say in Birchas Yetzer before Kriyishma. That's a preparation for declaring that Hashem is one. Hashem is one. Hashem is one. But one means not just one God and not two. It means one, the only reality. How can we say that when there's a whole world? So therefore we have to have this whole meditation before Krishma to explain that all of creation is absolutely dependent, and therefore it has no independent reality. Like we say, therefore, we praise Hashem for renewing in His goodness every day, continuously, the works of creation. That which He says here every day. We don't mean just every day, ongoing, tamid, every day, but chol yom, every day, all day. Every moment Hashem is willing creation, talking creation into existence. Like the very outset. So this is the avodah of Achesi, that He reveals in the Likus, it reveals in the world this truth of Hashem's ongoing investment, such that the world experiences itself as Keil Olam. Avraham made people call and recognize Keil Olam. And deeper still in the bittul of creation to the Creator. And that is as follows. Creation, not only, as we quoted the pasuk earlier, that with the word of Hashem and the breath of His mouth. Now that, the word of Hashem and the breath of His mouth, as you know, is Malchus, a word. Hashem is constantly speaking creation into being, but if that's all it was, so creation is directly related to a level of Elikus that itself is profoundly contracted. Like Malchus conceals the invested in it, like a word conceals the idea invested in it. It has to be extracted, but it's not so. All that God desires, He did, meaning that invested in creation directly is not only the Dvar Hashem, but the Ratzon Hashem. As you'll now elaborate, the desire of Hashem. And that means that the bittul is far greater, as you'll explain. The true existence of creation, where is it directly rooted? It is from the desire, the supernal desire and will. It's explained in Torah and in the Amarim of the Rabbi on Megillas Esther. The Rabbi elaborates. The matter is as follows. The Rabbi is going to explain now what the Ratzon is, in contrast to the lower Keiches HaNefesh, and certainly in contrast to Dibur, which is what Dvar Havaya is. Dvar Havaya is. Like we see within a person, the whole of the Maimon is very avodadik, but he is quite a profound scholar. That will is different than all of the other faculties. Not only because it's higher, that doesn't make it fundamentally different, because Chachma is higher than Binah. When he says here Cholok, it doesn't mean a higher level, it means of a different order altogether. As you will explain. Namely, all of the other faculties of a person, his intellect, his emotion, and so on, in Yonam, who, what is it? It's all they translate here. They are mitzias, they are identifiable mitzias, identifiable faculties that are really extraneous to the body, as it were, of the nefesh itself. Therefore, gam pulasam ba'if, how did they express themselves? In such a way, they're all relating to and affecting reality, things outside of the very self of the person. He illustrates. Let's take seichel, which is the highest faculty. So when a person's occupied in intellectual engagement pursuit, when he fell asleep, and it occurs to him an idea, chachma. That's what chachma is. It's an epiphany, an idea. So number one, even after he's no longer thinking about this, he's diverted his attention elsewhere. The idea remains filed away in his head, even though he's not engaging in it anymore. The seichel remains. He thought of this excuse me, he thought of this idea. He's come up with this concept. But what's trying to say that this concept is separate from him. So much so, I'm not now interested in the concept. He's dealing with something else entirely. But it's there to be in his filing cabinet in his head, to be retrieved whenever he wants. But the seichel itself is something separate from the nefesh. And moreover, what is seichel altogether? Seichel is when a person is entertaining, trying to understand what's out there, the experience that he has. The whole nature of seichel is figuring out, understanding, discovering the nature of what? Of something outside of the very self. We'll soon see the contrast to Rotzev. The first midas. What? Explains. It's obviously starting from the highest koyach and then going down and then showing that Rotzen is something else entirely. And there's a chiddush in midas, even over seichel, because midas, seichel is objective. So there's certain detachment in seichel. The chiddush is that even in midas, which entirely is subjective, it's still about the other. That is the midas shebelev, the midas ha'ava, for example, if he has love or the contrary of love, the opposite of love. Shakasher Paul, so when he acts upon this, and he does something, a nice thing to his fellow, it's at midas ha'ava, motivated by love. Gam kasher nifsekes yesoyres ha'ava, when the midas manifest will express itself. So right now he's not feeling this love, but that good thing that he did remains. Nisheres ha'tov mitziyusa, the favor remains. So as we and again, at the root of it all, the whole inyan of midas is an engagement. You love this thing or you're fearful of it. The opposite of love is not hate.
Seems to be massive.
Huh?
Seems to be massive.
Yeah, because a true midah will manifest in ma'aseh. Or could be, he's not saying this, but
What's nish'ar is the massive, not the midah.
yeah, but
I mean, I understand it's a result of the midah.
yeah. So I'm saying, okay, yeah, I hear your question. Perhaps we can. I'm just suggesting an answer here. That when you have this hisayrus of ava, so in machshava at least, if you didn't actually act upon it, you thought about doing something good. Something. So that machshava remains. I thought about doing something good, even if you didn't act upon it, even though you're not feeling the love. So all to say that midas and seichel is all about engagement, negotiation with the world outside of you. Figuring it out or relating emotionally to it. Whether it's a person or a thing, whatever it is. Let's contrast the Rotzen. I'm suggesting this answer to your question, maybe there's a better answer. But Rotzen is kivin she'ein metzias mechutz lenefesh. Rotzen is not the soul, the person relating to something else. It's not a response to something else, understanding something else, loving it or fearful of it. Rotzen is the fundamental expression of the self, the orientation of the self. Elsewhere in Chassidus it says, and this will be helpful for us, the pure Rotzen is, I want to be. So that's a statement about me. I understand is a statement about something else that I've understood. I love or I fear is an expression about something else that I'm engaging with. Pure Rotzen is the desire to be, like the survival instinct. I want to exist. I want to be. That's self. And that, you can't you file that away. No longer there. That's me. You may not address it consciously with your seichel, everything else, but it's forever present. Whereas the seichel and the emotional relationship, that's a piece of my history, filed away in my heart, in my brain, that I revisit or don't revisit.
You can also say ratzon is for things, right? I want this, I want that, I want
That's a therefore, because I want to be that. That's when the seichel and the midas kick in. So how you to survive, you need food, water, etc. But that's all detail. I'm not stuck on those things either. It's I want to be. In order to be, I need these things. So I negotiate the world in order to fulfill this fundamental desire to exist. But it's not really those things that I want. It's I want to exist. So quite simply, if a person would be nourished and healthy, etc., without eating, he wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep, wouldn't work, wouldn't do all the things that he does, because they're all because necessary tools in order to fulfill the fundamental intrinsic desire. I am, it's more than I want to be. Actually, I want to be mispashet. I want to be free. I want to express myself. The core rotzen is I want to express myself. And therefore, seichel, a million things. And that's not something the person can separate himself from. That's the deepest expression. Survival is the deepest natural component of all things. That's what the rotzen is.
Is that a reflection of
Voice, I forgot. Yeah, it was a baskel from heaven. What? No?
Is that the reflection of Ratzon Elyon?
Yeah, that's it. We're going to get to the Ratzon Elyon. It's all a marshal. To understand the Eibishter's investment in creation and his relationship with creation. How deep it is. It's not just it's going to conclude Hashem talked creation into existence. It's a word. A negligible investment. And true, he needs that constant word for creation to be. But the relationship between creation and the Eibishter is negligible, external. Hashem is invested his Ratzon. Kavayochel to say, this is me, this is what I want. You are what I want in the deepest way. The bittul, therefore, is far greater of creation put up against the Ratzon Hashem. Let's see one second. Let's see in the words of the Maimon.
He also used the word faith.
Pardon?
He's also using the word faith in the beginning.
Yeah, it's not.
Also tainig.
No. Desire and Ratzon. Tainig is even deeper. Although in the end, it's Nis'ava Kodesh Baruch Hu. The Ratzon is the window for, in the end, through Avodah. Through Avodah, we're mamshir the Etzem Mamish. This is Mitzat Teva. Mitzat Teva, the Ratzon is already present in nature, in creation. But through Avodah, we take it to the next level and reveal Atzmos, and that's the Nis'ava, the Tainug, and that's not, I want to express myself, but I simply am. The pleasure of being. Not expression even. The Ratzon says, I want to express myself. I want to survive, I want to express, I want to be free. I am mamish, that's time. But that we reveal through Avodah. So let's continue. Mashenkin the Ratzon, kivin sheli mitzias mechutz nefesh. Ratzon is not some faculty that's extraneous to the very nefesh itself. Ve'ene ela. Merutzas v'netiyas ha-nefesh is the Lashon Chassidus. Ratzon is simply the soul's, literally netiyah, its turn, its orientation, the soul's orientation. And therefore the Ratzon does not express itself in that which is outside the Ratzon. Everything the Ratzon expresses it's itself and ever present, not to be revisited later. He's saying that as long as you want it, a person wants something. Let's even at a very simple level, you want something. So the moment you don't want it anymore, it's not in your head anymore, filed away, an idea that you can revisit, it's not present. If you don't want it, you pull out from its very, I don't want this anymore, you've removed yourself from it. That thing only exists in your world as long as you want it. Seichel exists, you understood it. You don't, even if you're not pursuing that subject anymore, that idea remains forever in your head. It's a mitzias. Midas, a relationship. You had a friend, you're not a friend anymore, but the reality is there was a friend and there was a favor that was done, that's real. But the Ratzon, you want something, that which you want is only meaningful for you. It only exists. It has no reality as long as you want it. When you don't want it anymore, it doesn't exist for you in the nefesh. For you, it doesn't exist anymore. So it could be the friend. If you don't want to be a friend of that person, then it'll remove everything. It'll also remove everything. It'll just... You can't remove what happened by Pel Mamish, but it'll remove all attachment. But if it wasn't a want
It's a
thing,
negative emotional attachment.
huh?
It's a negative emotional attachment.
Well, negative in the sense that you've withdrawn it.
Yeah.
You've withdrawn it, or you don't like the person even, or something in between. It's not you don't like him, it's just interested in being a friend. But chesed, someone comes and you give tzedakah. It's a fleeting encounter. You gave the tzedakah. You're moved by chesed. That's a metzias. This doesn't involve your rotzen in a very conscious way. That's a fact that remains, not that you were not retracting, removing. It's there. But something that you have invested your rotzen in, it's only real as long as your rotzen is invested. The moment you withdraw your rotzen, for you it doesn't exist anymore.
Why doesn't it work in the same way that we said by nidas, that it's translated into the fact, into something, into an action, and then that action comes, so why can't Ratzon work in the same way? Ratzon drives you to do something, and then that...
The action, yes, that's what I'm trying to say now. The action will remain, but you have no connection to it. So
the same
again,
thing could be by...
so again, the example this morning, a person comes in, you're giving him, what is this act of chesed?
And then you regret it later. You don't want anything to do with it. I don't know, I'm saying that.
You would regret it later because it was your last penny, whatever. Okay, so then, let's analyze that situation. When you gave it, there was no big rotzen investment here. It was an external, Bal Chesed, someone puts out their hand, you give them. Yeah. Now, if later you want to revisit that, invest your rotzen in it and say, why did I do that? You could withdraw that. But otherwise, so you could then put the rotzen there and then make it dissipate. And you have no connection with that thing anymore. But if it was just simply an act of chesed, you did that chesed, and that chesed remains. Like seichel remains. Huh?
I don't know if that's what he's saying, but you could have a ratzon chesed
You could. You could engage that person in a very deep way.
from your own ratzon.
You could. You could. But, B'chlal, you're not doing that. You're not doing that. It's just because he asked you, and your chesed is aroused, and you give him. Of course, the undercurrent of everything has to be the rotzen. You do nothing outside, but it's not actively engaged there. So that, even after he goes away, and you're no longer having this chesed encounter, the chesed, you have not pulled the plug on it, the chesed remains. We're saying that the rotzen is purely the expression of me and what I want. And if you don't want it anymore, you are disconnected. Whereas all of the other engagements, seichel and midas, there can be an engagement there while you're thinking an act of chesed, and later you're no longer interested in it. It doesn't remove its validity, unless you pull your rotzen out of it. But just removing your seichel from it, no longer thinking about it, no longer engage in this chesed, doesn't make that chesed that I did no longer viable and exist and valuable, and what's the word I'm looking for? No longer a metzias. Huh? It's still a metzias, it's a fact. But the rotzen is, for me, of course the thing remains. But for me, you're out of my world. If I remove the rotzen, for me you don't exist anymore. It's erased from my being. Whereas seichel, it's not erased, even if I'm not thinking about the seichel. It's still there. But if I pull the rotzen out, then for me it's no longer there. You follow? Huh? Let's see. Oi. Okay, we'll stop here. To be continued. A straight story. We have to hit the pause button.
He ate shrimp. The person eats shrimp.